Okay, I'm going to show you guys the buffer zip setups. This video will be assuming that you've already done some Mega Man 1 all stages speedruns before. You know how the zips work, how the game works. You're just looking for those setups to get the zips more consistent. If you're looking for a more comprehensive beginner's tutorial, I can link Whitehat's tutorial, two-part tutorial, and Endy's beginner's tutorial. This will be just to cover the buffer zip setups. So, basically, real and quick, the buffer setups basically are going to allow you to, all you have to do is hold right, push A and B at the same time, and that will set up your zip beam. There'll be specific spots where we'll be using that. So it's basically just like that. So you'll be holding right, and then once you reach your spot, you'll just A and B together, and it'll set up your zip beam up perfectly. So the first one will be at the end of this stage. So what you're gonna do is, set your standing beam, zip beam with the buffer. Easy. Alright, let me show you what I did there. So you want to make sure that you have a beam that's going to be long enough and also last long enough there for you to be able to do all this. So your visual cue here will be this straight line. You can see this in the ice here. See how like each section kind of has a vertical line through it. So right when Mega Man's body passes through this line here is when you'll do your A plus B jump input, and that will set up your zip beam perfectly. It's hard to do it after a pause, like not in stride, so I'll try to show it here. So make sure your standing beam right there. Perfect. Okay. A few more things about this. Your vertical position on the screen when you do the A plus B input, it's a pretty wide range. So basically, as long as this beam, your setup beam is like anywhere like really like between those two beams there. So as long as it's in this general area, this will work here. So it's not pixel perfect where you place the setup beam. So just keep that in mind. So as long as it's in this like this is a pretty huge window. So as long as your setup beam is right within that range there, you should be fine. So for instance, like once you get the refill here, you're gonna shoot one, then just shoot another one here, just so you know you have one that's long enough. And that'll give you enough time to get the zip beam in place. So, of course I'm like completely botching this now. So that should be good, right here. See, that was a little low. Right there is good. Okay. So again, right at that line in the ice is where you want to do your A plus B buffer input. Make sure your setup beam is within those like two clouds there, and it should work every time. Okay, the next one will be in Fireman stage. I'm just going to reset the screen here so it show it from the beginning, because there's a small buffer jump here. Right when you pass this line here. Now when I say pass the line, it's really when Mega Man's half, like, that line's basically splitting him in half, so once he's halfway across that line is when you want to do your A plus B jump. And that will set this beam up. To get right up there. That's a good one just to start. Okay. So that's kind of how I do that part there. It actually worked out. So when I'm approaching those refills, I'm kind of just setting up the first beam to kind of land in the same spot every time. So that way, if I do get it in the right spot, like my zip beam is set up perfectly. And then if I miss it, that's when I'll go for the buffer setup. So I'll try to set the zip beam up. That's too high. So then we'll set up the buffer here. Yeah. So the buffer is a good backup here. You could use it as like your main strat. It's that consistent. I use it more as a backup, so if I miss it, again, set up the buffer. So I'll show you guys where the buffer is here. So what you have to do too, as I found, is you want to just do like a quick hesitation to make sure that this beam gets long enough and stays on there long enough. I feel like if you don't do that, then the beam kind of hits the edge of the screen a lot faster than you want it to. And then you kind of run out of space. I'm just showing this a few times here before I explain it. I guess that does work just fine. As long as you do it in stride, and you don't slow down. Okay. Alright, so again, try to set up your zip beam here in the refills. If not, then you can do the buffer. Or you could just go for it right away. So just wait for the beam to run out and then jump up right away. See, that's what can happen. That's why I do that hesitation, because that beam right there is useless. You'd have to shoot another one and then set up your buffer, which is going to end up slowing you down anyways. So just do like a quick jump here, and then jump up there. If that's the case, it's way more consistent. It's a little slower because you're slowing down a little bit, but right when you reach this point, full jump, and then jump up, and do your buffer. It's just a lot safer that way, and a lot more consistent. Alright, but let me show you where the buffer is. So again, just do like a jump, neutral jump, jump up on your beam. So this buffer is going to be right at this line here, this second line on this platform after this huge gap. So again, right when you cross that line is when you want to do your A plus B input. And as long as your beam is in, again, same thing, within like the same amount of pixel range there, it'll work every time. So I'll show you guys. I'll leave the pointer there for reference. Just do like a neutral jump, jump up on the beam. Right there is your buffer. And then hold left down here to get onto the wall. Okay. So again, you could do that as your main strat every time if you just, neutral jump, jump up. Like, that's pretty good to do as like your normal strat. It's pretty quick. It's pretty consistent. Again, what I like to try to do is set up the zip beam first on this refill, and then if I miss it, then I'll kind of go into the buffer setup here. But you can see how consistent that is, and we just did it like 3 times in a row with no problem. So whether you do it as your main strat or as your backup, either way, that setup works pretty consistently. Okay, there is one in Bomb Man stage I can show you too. A little mini zip. So that's right at the end of this screen here. The important thing about this one is you want to make sure that you're holding up immediately after you trigger the zip, or else you will die, and I'll show you that too. Alright, so right at the top of this circle here, this is kind of like the second one, I guess. So right at that line, once you cross that line is when you want to do your A plus B input. And then, literally, like, if you watch the input display back, as soon as you push left, like, you want to just go up right away. You guys have seen this zip before. Like, if you don't hold up, you just die. Good thing is it does warp you here, so if you accidentally say like you're not fast enough when you get the up, it does place you where you want to be, which is nice. But ideally, so right there, left and then up right away, and that'll put you right in the right position. That zip doesn't save too much time, but it's nice to do, nice to have, especially with like a consistent setup like this. You just have to be careful of the bullet enemies. They control you a little bit depending on how you got to that point in the screen, so you just gotta be careful there. Anyways, that's the bomb setup. Okay, next one will be the guts one. Again, I'll kind of show you how I set up the screen usually. Okay. Alright, so here is the screen that we're going to use our buffer setup. That's actually perfect without the buffer. So I can kind of explain what I just did there. So what I'm trying to do here, it's kind of similar to the fire screen, where I have a setup to set that zip beam up so you can see how I just did it there. And if I miss that setup, then I'll go into, I'll use the buffer as a backup. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to line up the bottom of the beam with the bottom of this gray part. So you can see that's a little high there. So the bottom line of the beam line up pretty much with the bottom of this like gray section here. And that will set up our zip beam perfectly like it just did right in that attempt below. Now if you're a pixel below it, it'll work too because it'll set up your wrap pixel. Wrap pixel means you can just jump and it'll wrap you around to the screen below, but you have to be in the right position for that. So there's two pixels that this setup will work on. The zip pixel, which we just got before. Pixel below will be the wrap pixel. So that, I think, should be good too. This might actually be the wrap pixel here. No, it's zip pixel again. Okay. So that's, and all you have to do is standing beams the rest of the way. Right when that platform leaves the screen, the mat on the left side, jump up and do your next one. And then as soon as the buster goes down, do a full jump and then initiate the zip there. I know I explained that kind of quick if you watch it back though. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. So again, right when this part of this the level reaches the left side of the screen, you'll jump up to your next beam. When this guy reaches the left side of the screen, jump up to your next beam, and then when the same guy who's going to come up reaches the left side, jump up and do your next beam. I'd do it a little faster there. And then once the buster goes down right there, so you can see like he's shooting, and then once his buster drops down, that's when you want to do your full jump and then push left to initiate the zip. That's easy. And then hold jump slightly there just to clear the gap. Okay, so what happens if you miss the setup? So like that's too low. Can't see the beam. So that's way too low. So what we'll do is we'll do a short beam. Start holding your beam again. Set it here. Jump over the hammer. Set your beam there as late as possible, and then you're going to do your A plus B input when you cross this line here. So when you cross this line on this platform is when you'll do your A plus B input. Sets up your zip beam perfectly. And we'll show that again in real time. So if you miss your setup, do a short beam, hold your beam again, set your beam here, jump over the hammer, set this as late as possible so it gives you enough time to set your beam, zip it. Alright, one more time. Go for the zip pixel, we missed it. Short beam, start another one. Set it here, jump over the hammer, set that as late as possible. Buffer. Yeah, you can see how consistent that is too. Like I just did it 3 times in a row, like with no problem. Missed the setup again. That beam might be a little long. So you can see what happens when that beam's too long. So that's one of the more important parts is setting this beam shorter, so you have enough room to set this beam, jump over the hammer, set this one right about there. That was too low. So short beam, set this one here, jump over the hammer, set this one up there. A plus B. Easy. Okay. That's the guts one. Alright, the final one they'll show here will be the Wily one. Zip, and this I think is the most important one because there was never really like a consistent setup for this. There was a couple different setups that you could use, but they were never really like super accurate, and they wasted a lot of beam as well. Alright, so this one, what we're gonna do, As soon as we jump up to this part, we'll start shooting our full beam. So start our beam right here. Just make sure you clear the top so you don't get stuck like that. And then right when you reach the edge of that top platform is when you'll jump and set your beam. Okay, so that's the first part of this. Jump, set your beam. This takes a little bit of practice. You know, you kind of basically want to be holding B when you jump and then just roll your thumb off of the B button into the A button. So you set it like kind of like as high as you can while also landing on it, just like that. And then the next spot where you'll jump will be, you'll jump and set your beam right at this line. So once you jump up to that one though, like this, you want to start setting your next beam like that. And then right there. And that's basically what it'll look like. Okay. So jump here, set it at the end, start another beam, jump right at that point, and then set your next beam. Okay, there's a couple visual cues you can use. I guess depending on what you're playing on, if you're playing on an old CRT, if you're playing on a monitor, your visual cues might differ. For me, what I use is the edge of this platform here. As soon as it reaches the edge of as soon as it touches the left side of the screen, that's when I'm doing my A plus B input. If you find that that doesn't work for you consistently based on what you're playing on, you can use the second line here at the bottom. Once you cross that line, you can use that as a visual cue as well. So that's when you'll do your A plus B input. This zip, you do have to wait a second. I don't know if it's exactly a second, maybe like half a second before you initiate the zip. Otherwise, if you do it right away, you die. So for whatever reason there, you do have to wait. In case you guys didn't know that already. So wait, and then go. You can see how consistent that is too. So I'll just show this a few more times, as you can see. The one on the floor is a little harder to look at, because he's so far away from the floor. Sometimes you do have to use that if your TV or whatever you're playing on doesn't line up. Mine happens to line up perfectly on the left side of that top of that platform, so I can use that as my visual cue. I think anyone playing on a CRT can basically use that as their visual cue as well. You can find something that works for you too, but those are the two easiest ones to use. There, I used the floor that time and it worked just fine. Just like that. Okay. So those are your buffer zips. Again, I will link in the description, I'll link Whitehat's tutorials, I'll also link Endy's tutorial, and I'll link a invite to the Classic Mega Man Speedrun Discord, where there's a lot more information. You can ask any additional questions. You can always message me directly if you have any specific questions about anything in this video, or anything about the game in general. I'll be more than happy to help out if I can. But anyways, hope this helps you guys learn some of the zips, get more consistent setups for them, or even consistent backups if your normal setups don't work. So these are pretty consistent. These have been around for a while. You know, a lot of the guys, CartinaCow was one of the main ones who found these setups. Other guys like Streamline, Endy, a couple other guys kind of helped put these together. It was really CartinaCow who put these together, so shoutouts to him. But I wanted to just compile a video that had them all in one place, since they've all been kind of scattered around. So, but anyways, hope this helps you guys, and good luck to you.